Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 621. Available now on Prime Video is Tonic, a crime thriller that stars an excellent Billy Blair as a gifted yet down on his luck jazz pianist who must commit murder in exchange for his drug debt to a crooked cop. A riveting character study of a self-destructive personality made to face the dire hopelessness of his existence. Tonic also marks the latest film by director and writer Derek Presley, who joins me on the podcast, along with the film's producer and editor Jason Starne. Derek and Jason, thank you both very much for joining me today.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Matthew. Pleasure to be here. And that was a great little intro about Tonic. We should take that for the synopsis. It's very good.
It's better than
well,
the one we have.
I ripped off my own reviews just for that, just to let you know. So I'll
That's
I'll,
great.
I'll sue myself for copyright. But so Jason, I wanna talk to you first in regards in regards to this movie now coming out now. We're just talking a little bit off screen about how I reviewed this film back in 2003. This movie is going to be coming out now. Prime people can watch it on Prime Video. It has been a while for it to come out. You had just a recent new festival run coming out and everything else. Can you just explain to me, because a lot of people in the independent world listen to my podcast and I talk to a lot of indie films out there. It is hard, isn't it, to get a movie out there, even with films behind you and everything else. Indie film is a hard go about it, and I find that sometimes even the best films have the hardest road to try to get to release. So, not to you don't have to get into specifics as you want, but can you just give us just maybe just like the brass tacks on what it's like to know you're holding on to a film that's so fantastic, and just the road to that distribution to try to get it out there just makes it uh, can be very difficult to try to get a film out there in the world sometimes.
Yeah, and in this case, like you said, we've already had three features out there, and they've done well by all accounts. This one we kind of hit some bumps in the road with sales agents and distribution, and we were I think learned some things from our previous films, and that put us in a good place where we could get our film back and we could own it. So, and it was a lot of hope, a lot of patience on the part of this film. I think, man, it's any filmmaker could tell you that, right? It's a struggle. You want the world to see it, but also you want to protect what you created, your craft, your art, and we did, and we finally got to a point where we got it back after 2 years of two different sales agents slash distributors, and we went our own route with this. We are now out on Amazon Prime. So, and that was also a bit of a, I wouldn't say a struggle. It was a surprise. It was something we wanted to do when we made this movie was to do a self-distribution. I wanted to with Tonic in the beginning, Derek. We talked about it, but then we were presented with some I don't know, some things that looked good for us. So we signed the deal, and that deal didn't work out. So we said, okay, well, let's do it by ourselves again, like we had planned. And then something else looked good to us, and we signed that deal, and that deal didn't work out. So we finally took it back, and we're running with it now. The thing that was tough was I don't know if you know this, but in any of the indie filmmakers out there, you really need an aggregator like a Film Hub or something if you're doing self-distribution. The problem with that is they're taking a good chunk of what the money, right, that's coming on the back end. In the case with Amazon, you're doing like a 50-50 split, but then your aggregator's getting another 20%. So then you're at 30% of your film. And I just didn't feel we needed to do that. And Amazon kind of closed their direct video platform, but I have some good friends and partners that are part of that platform that were grandfathered in. So we released under them, AMS Studios, and it's really good for us now. It's finally out there. Our plan is Amazon US. We're going to run that. Then we're going to do Amazon UK, and then we're working on captions for Japan and Germany, and we'll run Amazon exclusively until those things play out, and then we'll go back to an aggregator and see what else we can do worldwide. So, and this time, I hope a lot of people watch it, so that will help us.
I hope a lot of people watch it as well, and I'm so very happy that it's out there on Prime right now, and people can watch it because, like I said, reviewed it back in 2003, loved it then, love it now, and I'm sure people are going to love it as well. Derek, I know this movie has been with you for a while. I'm talking about like conception wise up to like filming and such. Is it true like the original like conception of this, where you're thinking more of a novelist as your main character as opposed to like a jazz pianist that we see in this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, because it didn't really at the time it didn't really matter what he did. I was going off more of what I do is writing, screenplays, And I thought trying to find somebody that would not the least likely person to commit a crime
Hmm.
is, and somebody that doesn't get out, doesn't mingle, a kind of a shut in was a novelist, and then but he does have a drug problem, and it wasn't very fleshed out, it was just really kind of a concept, and then it became the whole thing. I think Jason and I the word for this movie is organic. It's been that way since day one. So when we worked with Billy Blair, I I remember thinking to myself, he's just such a charming, sweet-natured, lovable guy. Like the Billy Blair, not his characters, who he is. And that was it. And I was like, and he's a musician. And then I started thinking about all the great things you can do with that, and then it just kind of snowballed into what it became, went up. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't write a version without Billy in mind. Billy was there from the beginning. It was Billy Blair and Jason Coviello, another actor. He played Terry, the cop. We'd worked with them, so we wrote that for those two roles. And once that happened, it made everything a lot easier. When writing the script, because then it was like, okay, he's a jazz musician, and there's just jazz pianist. There's so much great scenery, the feel. It's just it's oozing with it. So that's how it all started. But yeah, well, I think it would have been a lot more boring, and a lot more just dead had we written it with a novelist. It wouldn't have been near as fun. I mean, nobody wants to go see Stephen King go and try to kill somebody, but I would love to go see a deadbeat musician who's high on pills and smoking cigarettes and living in bars. Try to see him go kill somebody. That's actually entertaining, I think. So it's kind of where it came from.
And the cool thing, Jason, is that when I first saw Billy Blair on a screen was Whitetail, Derek, your first movie, and I remember we were talking, Derek, you and I don't know if you heard this interview, Jason, years ago, like what, 2017 or something, like so long ago. Um,
Mm.
I was saying to Derek at the time about how Billy is like one of those great character actors in that he has a remarkable face, and sometimes character actors need like have that face, like a Peter Lorre kind of face thing. But that face can be used in like so many different ways. And I've seen Billy play kind of like really nefarious, kind of like violent characters. I've seen him like play really kind of cocky characters. There was a lawyer character he played in a movie. I forgot what it was, but it was really cocky, like exuberant, that one. But this one, he plays like this just this desperate jazz musician, and you can just feel the desperation kind of just oozing out of him. And I know he is, like you said before, Derek, I know he is a musician, but I think he's able, and because of that, Jason, I think he's able to tap into that kind of thing about musicians, where we were just talking before about, as indie filmmakers, the struggle it is to get stuff out there. Jazz musicians, a lot of times, their struggle is also kind of like comes two part, because it's not only trying to get gigs, but they're alone up there on the stage, and they have to try to prove themselves every night up there. And rejection, I imagine, is a big part of the stuff they go through. And then from rejection maybe comes addictions, and addictions, bad decisions, just like spiral of things. And Jason, I just think Billy just tapped into that so well, and you just see it kind of exuding out of him throughout this performance.
Yeah, man, he's so good in this film, as you said. He's so vulnerable, but I think that the tough part is just, I don't know how, I mean, kudos to Derek for pulling this off, working with Billy, and obviously what Billy did, but he had to be himself, but not be himself, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
That really shows. So,
I got a funny story about that where that I get a kick out of is that when we presented the script to him, and he was just, he's very obviously he was very excited and very very sweet about it. Like, I can't believe, this is gonna be great. He wanted to do an impression of somebody. He wanted to really kind of create a character. And I understand that as an actor, that's something that, I've worked with other actors and they have a hand in that. Obviously, they want it, but this was one where I was like, there is no character to create. It is Billy Blair in a tuxedo. So you have to be you, Billy. And then, obviously embellish some of the cons that you have and some of those bad things. Don't, Billy's not an asshole like that, but and he wanted to do a Tom Waits kind of version of the guy. And so he did an audition video in a where not even audition video, just I guess to show me an example. And it was very, as Jason said, it was very difficult. I had to have him over to my house and we broke sorry. I was like, you have to you have to get on board with this, man. You gotta, we don't want you to be anybody but you. And I said, and what will come out of that will be something that's extremely natural. It'll be genuine if you just play Billy Blair. And he was like, "You sure you don't want me to, like, because I could do like a raspier voice, or I could maybe have a walk." And I was like, "No, I'd want you to be you." So
Mm.
what? And he is Sebastian, and that's what I believe is one of the hardest things for him is because he wanted to play around with it, he wanted to. That's a fun thing to be able to do. And like Jason said, I think it's probably pretty difficult to be like, no, have a reaction you would have normally, just play yourself and let us be the ones that kind of make you look more like a dick, and that's what we did. So,
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. Is it right, Derek, that there are a couple of films that were kind of like heavy inspirations into kind of like the tone you're looking for? Killing of a Chinese Bookie and After Hours were the two films that you guys really kind of looked at and how you wanted kind of to present your story, not so much kind of like visuals. I mean, this is your movie, but like those movies were kind of like almost like a kind of like a inspiration upon of such that you wanted to kind of drink from once in a while to get this movie going.
yeah, I think the two biggest inspirations from those two films, and those were the two biggest as far as because of what they gave us was the simple plot. There's
Right.
nothing too intense, but the simple plot. He has to kill somebody. That's Chinese Bookie. And then the atmosphere and kind of the timeline of After Hours and the zaniness of it. And again, simple plot. I mean, that's even more simple than Chinese Bookie, really. It's a guy trying to get home, and everything that could happen happens. And Chinese Bookie is, it's just done the way Cassavetes did it. What I think we did steal from in a great way was trying to put people in those environments and not get in our own way. And I think he did it out of necessity because back in those days he just said get a camera and go, and it gave a very natural feel. And I
Mm.
think that's we wanted to do was like you're following this man around for an hour and a half while he's dealing with this, and we want you to be in there. Nothing too surreal, nothing too gimmicky, even though the situation is pretty crazy and unrealistic, but make it feel a little grounded. And I think those two films were kind of guides. And there's some literature and stuff, some obviously, that people would pick up on stuff we take from books and things like that. But for the most part, I think those were the two. Ironically, Jason, I've never seen, there's a Toback movie, James Toback called Fingers, which is about a jazz
Mm.
pianist who gets into trouble with the mob. I don't think it's a different story, but it's very similar. And I was like, everybody's like, is it like that? I'm like, I've never seen that movie.
I think I did, yeah.
Later.
Yeah,
I'll put it
that
on my
one went,
list.
yeah,
They
went past.
remade that or it was a remade the French remade it. I think it was called the Beat My Heart Skips. There was a remake in France as well that they made for
Oh,
it as well. So both
cool.
films were kind of like
I'm
were
gonna write
both
that down.
acclaimed really, but yeah, that Keitel one was kind of like a really calling card for Keitel because he did stuff with Scorsese beforehand, but this was like a first kind of big leading kind of thing in there. So yeah, those are yeah, but funny enough, Derek, and I don't want to sound pretentious, but I'm gonna have to go down that road. Something I wrote in my review,
Mhm.
um, it kind of felt like the character Sebastian was undertaking his own kind of purgatory. It was like his own Dante's Inferno. The deeper he goes into Deep Ellum, the all of the sins kind of like just come up and like face him.
Yes.
Was that one of the books you kind of referenced to at all? Or is that something that just like you didn't even think about, and just me being, a cocky film critic and just grasping at straws?
I'll let you. Yes. Yeah, that's one of them. Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I mean, no, that's a great one. And yes. I love that you picked up on that. I think the more of these things that we do, the more I kind of just like to let people um, guess what we were doing. Because if you break it down, then you talk about pretentious, then I could be like get really crazy with it to tell you. But in all honesty, I think a lot of this movie kind of came out. The biggest inspiration was the film that Jason and I just came off of,
Mm,
and which was Boone.
which was a
And we
completely different film, but for different
yes.
reasons. I think the
yeah,
inspiration hit us pretty hard. So.
Yeah.
it did. It hit
Well,
us hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like, was it right that was that? I'm trying to figure out timeline wise. Was Boone COVID time?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Tonic
Redstone
was
and
also
Boone were
still COVID, but the in kind of the back end of COVID. I mean, we still had challenges filming Tonic. We had to replace crew positions and things as well.
Yeah.
It was nowhere near what Boone was as far as how strict the policies they had in place were that we were dealing with. I mean, the first half of Boone, I don't know, 10, 12 days, we had 6 foot distance rules and stuff between actors. I mean, you can't get intimate or anything with that. And you're really forced to shoot a different way. So we luckily didn't have that. But, halfway through Boone, I don't want to go off on Boone, but that rule was lifted. So we got to start working the way we like to work.
but it
And
was kind of like the damage was kind of done by that point as far as some of the things we had planned. Some elaborate fight scenes that we had from our Jason's good friends who are amazing people, the Machados, they did. We went and spent hours with them a whole day planning we couldn't do it because of these rules. And so, which we're not complaining, we get it. You had to be safe, but it was a very hard movie. And it wasn't that we didn't want to, it wasn't like, I'm not trying to say like we want to do something easier, but I wanted to do something that was closer to the things that I enjoyed. And I
mm,
think that kind of stuff got away from me as a personally, as a filmmaker. So I wanted to go back and do something like Tonic, which is more of the stuff that I've been inspired by and I love, my entire life. Things that what I got 6 posters behind me and they're all movies from this 1970s, like all the guys you would love. And those are the dudes I love. Those are the films I like. So not that I didn't like Boone. I'm not saying I didn't. It was when we came back, there was a sense of Jason and I were both like, we want to do something a little bit more us.
More intimate, smaller, more, yeah. It was just
Yeah.
kind of like how we made Whitetail. I think we got back to that. So I'm very proud of
Yeah.
that. I mean, it was a miracle we pulled this off. You probably don't know a lot about Deep Ellum, but it can be sketchy in that area, and it was at times. But that's why I think, man, just getting in there and getting out and capturing Deep Ellum on film was, I don't
Yeah.
know, we kind of lightning in a bottle, I think. So
so
100%.
speaking of Deep Ellum, is it true that you guys were first thinking New Orleans, Vegas, kind of like all these kind of spots first? So how does Deep Ellum kind of come into the into frame here? Because for myself, like as a film person, like watching movies, I don't know many movies that have been based there. I can be wrong. I probably am. I didn't do a Google search or anything beforehand, so in regards to films shot there, but it's just such a different world to be tapped into, especially post COVID, where it's kind of like the engines are revving again and people are just ready to get back out there. And Deep Ellum's always has its like reputation. It's got on one hand, it's got the reputation of this great arts hub, jazz, blues, all that kind of stuff as well. But then the other hand,
hip
you have
hop,
like the
country.
crime stuff as well. Kind of comes together, and then you add the whole post-COVID thing where everyone's just ready to get out at homes and ready to get out there. I'm sure the kind of mix of this would have been a little bit of a volatile cocktail to be in the midst of trying to film this movie.
Yeah.
It is.
No.
Sorry, go
Go
ahead. I
ahead.
was just gonna say, like
Yeah.
they actually closed streets down, very
Yeah.
heavy police presence. Like you're not allowed to drive down Main Street, Elm Street. It's after 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it's packed full of people and characters.
They had, yeah, it's to answer your question, I mean, the first draft of the script was just written nondescript, um music hub, music place with a little culture. And naturally I think we were thinking Chicago, Vegas,
Orleans. I think New
New
Orleans was
Orleans,
first. And yeah, and
Austin too.
Chicago.
We talked about Austin, because these are places that have this culture, and sometimes you've seen it on screen and sometimes you haven't, but um it actually happened that we do these things called investor pitch decks. And so we have to go through, and sometimes you put photographs and you put, images, inspirations of movies and synopsis and what you're doing and all this stuff. And I went down to Deep Ellum with Billy because it looked the closest to what we needed. And I had no intention of shooting there at the time. I just said, Billy, we're gonna put your tuxedo on because he said he'd use it, and he did. And I would find these really beautiful lights because the whole place is just filled with all these crazy street awnings. It kind of became the palette. And let's go here and here and all that. And then by the time we left, I don't know how it happened exactly, but I was talking to Jason and we were like, why don't we just do it in Deep Ellum? Because like I don't want to leave. I don't want to have to go. We just, let's stay in our backyard. And to your point, Matthew, there's really only been one movie that's really kind of been known for Deep Ellum, and it wasn't even Deep Ellum. It was RoboCop. They filmed a lot of RoboCop there,
Wow.
and the original RoboCop. But it's not Deep Ellum or Dallas. It's Detroit in the
Detroit.
movie.
Yeah.
So we kind of got when go back to talking about organic, about how the script changed from a novelist when I met Billy, it changed to like a jazz pianist or like just a musician. Same thing was when we were scouting locations. Billy, somebody would walk across the street, yell out at Billy, be like, "Hey, Billy," because Billy plays there. That's where he grew up. That's his place. So it just made it more. It all made it made it more natural, and it was like, this is where we're going to film and we're going to make this I would say what, a love letter, right? And then it's kind of, I mean, to it in a way, but it didn't. That's why I said it's organic. It's never started like that. But it ended up being that. And by the time we're done with it, like Jason said, I think that to go into Deep Ellum over 16 nights or whatever it was, nights, by the way, not day, nights, all nights, going into the real clubs when they're open, having real bands, all the bands are from Deep Ellum, going in there. Billy was instrumental in that, Jason, because he played in all the clubs and could get us like with the club owners, but hey, we want to film a film here, and they were like, okay, like it was done that way, and there's something great about that. It just energizes you when you're shooting that. It's not fake, it's not plastic, it's just real. You're actually in there with real barflies and real people that want to see good music, and we observe and we report. That's what we did. So I was really proud
Yeah.
of that.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere.
And we really embraced the local bands for the film. I mean, the bands that are in the film, they're all bands that play in Deep Ellum. And I think that was pretty special. It kind of made the soundtrack for the film.
Yeah.
Um, and we thought, well, what a great way to also showcase not just indie filmmakers, but indie musicians as well. They're trying to cut their teeth. So that was well, I mean, budget too. We it helped us, but the overall experience was just unbelievable. I often wonder if we could ever do that again, like do Tonic again.
I
So
don't think so. I don't think so. Because everything happened. You say lightning in a bottle. You're so right. Everything happened for a reason, down to casting Billy. Which I mean, not casting, but saying, "Oh, there's Billy. He's this evil guy in these movies we worked on, Redstone and Whitetail, and all the stuff he plays." Like you said, Matt. Just and then when you get to know him and you just go, hang out with him, he's just this sweet dude that is just he's a nice guy. And
yeah,
then you want put him in a precarious situation, slap a tuxedo on him and go film around Deep Ellum, and it was one thing after another just started happening naturally. The music's a big thing. I was really intent on having a band, one of my favorite bands, have an opening song and a closing song, just like the movie is. And we didn't have the budget to do that because that's a little bit. We had to take whatever money we had for that. We had to use it in other places, right? Because this is independent filmmaking, and that led to us embracing Billy Blair and his people, his bands and his people he knows to come on. And so now the soundtrack and they're all really good. That's the key. They're all really really talented musicians, and now so you have this homegrown, little movie that's just a little thing about a day in the night, a day and night in the life of Deep Ellum with this guy, and it made it really really special in my opinion. Sets it apart from the other films that we've done.
Speaking of the music, Jason, is there any plan whatsoever to release soundtrack, or maybe even just something as Spotify playlist or something like that that highlights the music in the film. You can it's not only can be used to just like highlight like Billy's music and the artists are involved in the film, but it could be used as a good kind of promotional tool as well, I think anyway.
Absolutely, and that's part of our plan. Part of the idea was to put together a real soundtrack, get it out on Spotify, and share that revenue split with the musicians. So
Yeah.
that's something we talked about, and that's something we're still doing and working on right now. So, because they absolutely deserve it, and without them, we don't have what we have. So, yeah. And then there was like going back to the organic thing, we had a scene in the film where there wasn't a band that was playing that night that happened to show up and had to play that night while we were set to film in the
Mm.
bar. And so we had to adjust on the fly, and they were great. Justin Cash and his band, and they were great. And we talked to them about using their music and using them, and like it just worked out. So it was a scary night though, because that's something we didn't plan for. And a band shows up and they have to go on. And so
Yeah.
it,
Somebody got shot in the bar next door to us while we were filming. That was
yeah,
fun.
Wow.
Um, and then we had and
that's not
all those what was yeah, I mean for all those people that don't understand irony,
Yes,
it wasn't
of course.
or humor. But uh I do believe that one of my favorite aspects of the movie is the visuals. And there are so many little moments where you're seeing sirens or lights,
Mm.
and those were all caught natural. Obviously, we didn't go and get the Dallas Fire Department to queue up their fire engine to go through a shot. It looked gorgeous, and those are the things that are just kind of happy accidents, and you get that when you're filming in an area like Deep Ellum, a lot actually, a
And
lot of
it's such
sirens.
a and it's such a great juxtaposition because on one end, you're filming in this thriving, bustling city, just teeming with people and things going on, people getting shot, bands going on stage, everything else. But the center of the story is this story of loneliness. It's just this one guy. The only person he has in his life is his sister, who Laurie Petty, I just got to say, just remarkably fantastic in this movie as well. But he's like just he's on his own. He's like he's burnt all his bridges. He's got no
Yeah.
one left. He's like on his own. Um, I think it's just such a great kind of thing that even though someone can live all their life and they have this talent and they're trying to make a career out of it, they can just that self-destructive personality that they have kind of make him so kind of and I hate using the word toxic because it's just been overused, but he does become like a toxic presence within this community. Like no one wants to put him on stage. No one wants to help him out. He's got debts. He's got, he's now stuck in this really kind of perilous position to this corrupt cop. I mean, it's just a fantastic kind of conflict between like the inner character and the outer environment that just works so well on screen. I just absolutely loved it.
Thank you. A lot of that is you're talking about inspirations. I mean, that's the people that is a lot of that stuff is the people that I grew up reading myself and that I put in there some authors that, and people that I've known in real life, they're barflies. They're they're people that can't get out of their own way. And, for some reason you want to say, well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and let's go, but
Mm,
you just do feel some sort of sympathy for these type of characters because you just know that they can't do it.
yeah.
And it's like people that have addiction in their family or addicts and stuff, and so I think that's all what that came from was like let's take the most let's take let's take the guy that probably is the least likely to succeed and let's see if he can. And then it's up for debate if he does. So so
great.
that
Yeah.
was yeah. So
Um, Final question here, guys. So,
mhm.
Jason, the whole thing when I've like and I followed Derek's career for so long, and I think this is like our maybe third or fourth conversation we've had as well, Derek, just on here. And the thing about filmmaking, like especially independent, is like there's momentum. You're prolific, you build momentum, and then COVID came in and kind of derailed that somewhat, and what have you. Going forward now, you guys know what type of films you want to make. Guys know what type of stories you want to make. You've learned things. You've gone through experiences, business side, artistic side, and what are going forward now. What do you see the future to be like with yourself and Derek in regards to the films you want to make? Are you sticking to the same kind of course that you have with Tonic? That's your background. that's the stories you know, that's the people you know, that's the movies you want to make. Is that how we're going forward from now on? Are you taking those lessons from Tonic and Boone and everything else, and now just kind of using that to kind of propel you forward to the next stage of this career?
Um, I mean, I'd like to say yes, but sometimes opportunities come your way, and somebody wants to hire you as a director or producer. For me, I do have a film that I'm directing this summer that is it's not like Tonic at all, but it's still a good thriller story. So I'm happy to do that. Derek is fortunate if I let him speak about it, but he's got another film that I feel like is a lot like Tonic. But we together are going to co-direct a film that we wrote together that I believe is our next real Tonic. So and that's going to be with Ed Westwick, hopefully. So who was also in Tonic and
Yes.
unrecognizable, but yeah, we do have a film that I'm so proud of this script that we're gonna attack it together as directors, and I think that's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think we'll pull off something that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Derek, it's really interesting whenever I watch movies, sometimes I see your name pop up in credits. I go, hey, there's Derek. There he is.
Yeah,
Like last rodeo, for example, I remember you got in touch with me after that because I interviewed John Abnett, the director of that film.
yeah.
And so that's really cool. But is Bobby Tuckett the next movie you got on your slate?
Yes, yeah, that's the one that we'll be doing, and Jason's producing that, and in a aspect of that, he's doing a lot of his own stuff. He's Mr. Busy Guy, so I can't get him alone anymore. But he is producing that and doing editing that with me, and so it's kind of the same formula. But I'm working on that, and that is similar in tone, I would say. Yeah, a little bit more of a budget, but not much. So it's kind of yeah, I would say that you're right, man. I mean, I no matter if Jason's directing a project or I'm directing or editing or producing, whatever, I think that we have probably, I would say that learned a lot from Tonic and the other films. We learned what not to do, and we're learning what to do and what we like. And with me as a writer and like I'm more of a on the creative aspect, I'm just learning that I just like stories that are a little bit more grounded, and I think I just enjoy those a little bit more. And I think that it there's always unique ways of playing around with old things. Um, and I'm probably just yeah, probably going to be just an old fart that sticks to those type of films because I like them. But as a writer, I'll write. I like to. That's kind of my full-time job right now. So I'll write, writing stuff all the time with Neil McDonough, and I'm writing stuff for other people that hopefully get made, and they go off and do things, and that's great. But when it comes to working with, especially with Jason, I think that we have a thing that we really enjoy. I think we enjoyed that movie the most as far as the collaboration and working on it and the passion we put into it. It's as much his movie as it is mine, vice versa. And we had great people. Lola Lott, who was our producer, executive, one of our executives. She couldn't have made it without her and some, um, you know, old friends and new friends that we made along the way that made the movie good, and people we know we want to work with, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, I don't know about you guys, but like, we are going to die, and I want to spend the few remaining years I have on this earth having fun while I'm working, and I want to leave something behind that's kind of cool. So that's what my intent would be. And if somebody came to me with, $100 million budgeted movie, then I'm selling out faster than you can say hi. But as far as independent films go, you just take too much. There's a lot of effort put into these things and a lot of time, and I just don't see the reason in making something that you're not just absolutely head over heels in love with anymore. I don't. That's the way I look at it. Um, so yeah, Bobby Tuckett's the next one, and then got some other things going, and then like Jason said, we got a fun one we're gonna do together that we think Ed Westwick's gonna blow people away, and it's got to be Ed. It's got to be Ed West. He's got to be it. But I think you'd really enjoy. I, I think when we get around to making it, it's gonna be a really cool movie. So I'm excited about it.
So for
Yeah.
everyone out there listening, Tonic available now, Prime Video. I cannot recommend this movie enough. I loved it when I saw it back in 2003. I got to say, I had to say it's one of my favorite reviews I've ever written as well. There's something about that film that kind of tapped into, I don't know what it is about the movie, but it just tapped into something in me, and I can't wait for people to watch this movie so they can understand what I'm talking about here. I really recommend people check out Tonic. Billy Blair is fantastic in this film. Deep Ellum, you can see it alive on screen. Derek, you did such a great job here. Just everything in here, and Jason, the editing as well, just fantastic. And I really encourage you guys that when it comes to end of year kind of award stuff as well, especially like independent indie award stuff, Gotham Awards was. Try to push this movie as much as you can, and try to get it out there. I know it's like a hard task and stuff like that. If there's anything you could do to do that, I think it would be really cool because it's worthy of all that stuff and more. It really is. I mean, I think Mike, I actually wrote down in my review that Billy Blair, I actually wrote down one of the lines I wrote down is that not only gives the best performance of his career, but it's my favorite performance of 2023. And I wrote that down in there because I thought he was just fantastic in this film, and what you guys done here is just such a fantastic job. You guys hit to exactly what I love about film. Sometimes I get films sent to me and I get a little bogged down by it and all that, but then a film like Tony comes along and it just like springs me back up to step again, you know. And
Oh,
it's such a it's a great film. So again, everyone out there, Tonic, Prime Video. I'll have the link in the show notes so you can click it, buy it, watch it, talk about it, get someone else to do the same, because it's a fantastic movie. And Derek and Jason, thank you so very much for your time today. Can't wait to talk again in the future, guys. And best of luck in regards to your future projects coming up and for the release of this film, because like I said, I love this film. I'm going to champion it as much as I can. And congrats to you both.
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Matthew. Really kind words. Thank you. It really means a
Yeah,
lot. Appreciate that.
love it.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.